Hi, welcome to Overthinking Entrepreneur. I'm Megan, and I've had a successful online business for a few years now, and I think I overthought probably about 90% of my decisions along the way. Honestly, I just overthought whether I should say 90% or pretty much every decision in this intro. So if you find that relatable, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I will help you get out of overthinking and into action so that your online business can finally start growing. What do you do when you promote something and you are all excited about it, but it just doesn't get as many signups as you wanted it to? What do you do now? Do you cancel? Do you push it back? Do you do it anyway? How do you decide? I have been here more than once, of course, in my journey over the years. I have had things that sold way better than I expected them to, things that sold pretty exactly how I expected them to, things that sold way worse, and everything in between over the years. And so I thought this might be really helpful for you to understand what I do when this happens, because this still happens. And I think anyone who tries to tell you that this won't ever happen again is probably, I don't want to say they're intentionally lying, but I don't think that's accurate. I think that no matter how successful you get, no matter how much you know, there's still always the chance that things could go wrong. Maybe an idea that you had just didn't click with people the way that you thought that it would. Or maybe the way that you're trying to promote it isn't connecting with them. Or maybe it's a timing thing. Or there's so many reasons why this can happen. And so I want to just walk you through kind of what I do, the 3 different choices, how to decide which choice to make, and then what to do with that choice so that everything goes smoothly. So I hope that you find this really helpful. I would have loved an episode like this when I was first getting started, and especially the first time this happened to me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I didn't even really realize that I had options then, and you do. So, okay. So just to reiterate, we're setting the scene here. We're talking about something that you are promoting, that you've come up with, and you've intentionally done a promotional period, some sort of launch period, and you just didn't get as many people who signed up as you wanted. So this obviously is going to look different depending on what your business is. For simplicity's sake, and because it's what I know best, we're going to talk like it's a group program that you've created, whether it's a program or like some kind of challenge that you want to do for your group, or even, hey, does everyone want to order the same product and we can all do it together? This can apply in a ton of different scenarios, but just to keep it simple and for consistency to kind of, in my example, as we go throughout this, we're going to pretend like this thing is a challenge that you've created and you didn't have as many people who signed up as you wanted them to. So the first thing that we need to do is decide, what do you want to do? You can cancel it. You can push it back and try and keep promoting so that you get more signups, or you can just move forward as planned and do it with less people than you were hoping would be there. So I think the right move here, it depends. And I'm going to give you the circumstances of why I think you would want each one. But even within that, there is, of course, nuance, and there's always exceptions, and there's always, you get to decide. And ultimately, if there's one that you just want to do and that's what you want to do it. But if you're feeling stuck and you're overthinking and you're not sure what you should do, here's what I think you should do. So, okay, if literally no one signed up, I think you should cancel. I think that if no one signed up at all, that's telling you a few different things. Number one, it could be telling you people don't want this, especially if you feel like you promoted it really effectively. Sometimes we have an idea and it's great, but people just don't want it. And yes, oftentimes we know what people need better than they do, and in certain circumstances. That sounded weird. I don't want to make it sound like I think I know you better than you know you. Of course I don't. But I will tell you, there's times people come to me and say, can you help me write better sales posts? I am not getting customers anymore. I don't know what's going wrong. And then when I talk to them, I realize it's not their posts it's the problem. It's that they haven't met anyone new in a year. And it's the same people that have been seeing their posts this whole time. And that's why they're not seeing the sales that they want. So that's what I mean when sometimes people want one thing, but I know what they actually need is different. But at the end of the day, if you can't connect those dots for them and kind of sell them on why what you're selling is what they need for their problem, they're not going to buy it. Not every idea is a good idea. And not even every good idea is a good business idea. There are plenty of things that are great ideas, but people would not be willing to pay for. or sign up for as an official challenge, or, whatever that is. So if no one signed up, sometimes that tells you that this just wasn't as good of an idea as you thought it was. And that's okay. I have canceled a lot of things. I've had a lot of ideas that I thought were great, and then wah wah. There was a time I talk about my membership, the squad, a lot here in our group chat. They were telling me that they really struggled with networking. And I came up with this great idea that we were going to do a month of collaborations, and I would help facilitate them within amongst the members so that they could collaborate and help with audience growth. And I was so excited, and I thought they were going to love it. It got crickets, absolute crickets. No one said a thing. I think someone maybe said a pity. Yeah, that could be cool. That was like it. So I still think it would be a good idea, but they simply didn't want it, and I had to just let it go and cancel that idea, okay? So sometimes you have to do the same with your business. Another reason why you could cancel is there's really no reason not to. So sometimes, maybe you had to rent a space. Maybe this was like an in-person thing, and if you cancel, you'll lose the deposit. So, that might be something that you don't want to cancel because then you would lose out on that deposit. Or maybe there's something that you've already put together. Or sometimes this could even be like hours of work down the drain. Now, I will say you don't want to use this as a sole factor when it comes to making business decisions, because there's a lot of things that you can put a lot of hours into. And like I just said, if people don't want it, if it wasn't a good idea to begin with, continuing to put more hours into it is not going to make it more worth it or a better decision. But, sometimes we do have to look at, like, what have I already put into this, and what would be the associated costs, whether they're money or otherwise, if I decide to cancel. And then I think the other reason why you would decide to cancel is if this really took the wind out of your sails and you just can't seem to get it back. You're not excited about this anymore. So if you're leading a challenge or, some sort of group program or training or something that you were trying to get people to sign up for, and you were going to have to show up as the leader and lead from the front and be excited yourself. And if you're not excited, it's going to be really hard for you to like fake enough excitement to get the people who are in the program to be excited. So I think that this is a hard one. I don't think I've ever canceled something just because I wasn't as excited anymore. I'm trying to think back. There may have been a time or two, but I don't think so. What I do in that situation is figure out how to get myself excited again. But I do think, especially if no one signed up, rather than postponing and trying to get more people in, if you're not excited about it, no one signed up, and there's really no cost if you do decide to cancel. If that's the case, I think you're okay to go ahead and just cancel it and try a different idea. And one thing I will interject right here, now that I'm kind of thinking it through a little bit, I think the reason why I don't have to do this very often is because I almost always test the waters before I get too far with a new idea. So I hardly ever come up with an idea, don't tell a single soul, work on it, and then launch it. That's just not how I roll, for a few different reasons. Partially because once I'm excited about something, I can't shut up about it, and I'm going to start telling people about it, but also because I want to make sure it's a good idea. I want to make sure before I get too far, before I reach that point that we just described, where you've put a ton of work into something and now you're having a hard time letting it go, even though it's not working. Before I let myself get to that point, I try and get a good determination of if this is something people want or not. So I will almost always talk about it in my squad chat for my members and make sure that they like it, because they're some of my most engaged people. If they don't like an idea, then, and Trey, who I mentioned last week, my community manager, it was her birthday. She has been with me for years, and she has she's never said to me, oh, I don't think people would want that, unless I asked her. Like she'll be honest with me if I ask her, but she's never been like, I don't know about that idea. But I know her well enough. We've worked together long enough that I can tell when she's very underwhelmed by one of my ideas. And I'm like, okay, if you're underwhelmed, it's done. Like, I'm moving on, because if you always get excited about my ideas. So if you're not excited, I know other people aren't going to be either. So I kind of run them through a few different checks. I will also often start to talk about ideas that I have in my content. So, let's say that I did a live video. I will say, by the way, here's something I'm thinking on. Is this something you'd want? Or, hey, I have a question. What do you think about this? Or I'll start planting a little seed in a post that I'm writing that isn't necessarily about this new idea, but I'll kind of mention it and see if people respond to it. That way I get to I don't do like a formal pre-sale very often, but it's almost testing the waters in the same way as a pre-sale to make sure people want this idea before I get too far into it. So I just wanted to mention that. I think that's that's helped me a lot in terms of not having to cancel very often, because I've had cancel worthy ideas, but I haven't taken them far enough to where it needs to be canceled very often, as I guess how I wanted to explain that better. So, okay. Next would be postponing. What is a situation where you would want to postpone? So, I think if a few people signed up and you have that gut feeling that you could get more to sign up if you keep promoting. So you have some signups. It's not that no one wanted this at all. You got a few, but not as many as you were hoping for. And then I think a big factor when deciding to postpone is if you know that you didn't promote this thing enough or in the right way. I've done this a lot, especially in the last year. If you've been following me, I've done this more in the last year than I ever had before. And that's because I did not used to have a child and I could just spend as much time getting things ready like I wanted to. And now my time is more limited. And so I've had a few times where I got really excited and I thought I could have something ready in time. But between doing the behind the scenes, getting the stuff ready, and then trying to remember to promote it often enough, and I have to write an email, I have to do this, I have to do that. There's been a handful of times where I'm like, you know what? I know that I did not do the best job of promoting this, and I know that more people would sign up if I keep going. That is when I'll decide to postpone. So some people signed up. That means people did want it. I know that I didn't promote it enough. And then if I'm still excited about it, that's another big, because if you go through, let's say that you did like a week where you really pushed to get people to sign up for the thing and you got maybe 1 when you were hoping for 10. And so now you have to really look at like, okay, I need to be honest with myself. What do I think can happen here? Am I still excited? Because if you try and push back, but you're not feeling it, this whole thing, the fact that only 1 person signed up when you hope for 10 has you feeling so defeated that you don't think you could show up and effectively promote even if you wanted to, then you probably shouldn't postpone, because simply having more time doesn't do anything unless you use that time, unless you create a new plan of how can I do this better. Maybe I need to do more reels and I need to go live this time and I need to write better emails and I need to really get clear on how I want to market it. That's another thing. Sometimes it's not about the number of times you tried to promote, although that does matter, and it matters now more than it ever has. You need to promote and promote and promote and promote way more than you think that you need to, and then still promote some more in this current environment that we are in right now at the time I'm recording this. But the other thing is that sometimes maybe you didn't promote it the right way. Maybe the angle you came about in your promotions was wrong, or it wasn't specific enough, or it didn't really help people understand the result that this challenge could have on their business. So that's a very clear sign for me. And that's kind of the number one reason when I will decide to postpone something, is that if I'm honest with myself and I really think about it, I didn't do my job with the marketing properly. I didn't market enough, or I did not market correctly, or both. Often both. So looking back on kind of what you did and saying, okay, do I really think that I could get more people if I had more time to promote it? And if you do, postponing might be a good option. Some other things you want to look at before you decide to postpone: is there any reason why it can't be postponed? So you kind of just want to look at a calendar. You kind of want to look at what's going on. Like sometimes I have something planned, and okay, here's a good example. I'm going to do a free challenge in my free group at the end of this month, and I'm going to try to be a little bit more strategic with the timing. In the past, I've just been like, it's been a while since we've done a challenge, let's do it. Or I know what month I want to do it. I try and do them quarterly, so roughly every 3 months, but it's not perfect by any means. And so I'll just be like, hey, this would be a good week for a challenge, let's do it. And I just pick one. So this time I tried. Typically when we go through a challenge, it helps me grow my membership, and it also helps me grow how many people buy the content prompts that I put out every month. So I was like, it'd probably be smart if I strategically had a challenge end at the time when a fresh set of content prompts comes out. So if this challenge is tentatively happening in a couple weeks, if for whatever reason I mess up the promotion and I'm not ready to start, then pushing it back a week would throw off my whole plan. So that's something that where I've chosen the dates that I've chosen for a reason. The way that I told you that I have previously done challenges where I just picked a random week and said, yeah, that sounds good, let's do a challenge. It would be no problem at all for me to push it back if that's what's happening. But when I've kind of strategically chosen when I want to have it, or maybe you're about to go on vacation, or maybe there's about to be a really busy week at work, or it's the end of the month and you need this done before the month ends, or the following week is a holiday week and you know that not as many people would be able to participate, whatever, right? Look at a calendar and look and be really honest about what happens if I push it back. Will it impact anything? Is there a reason why it can't be? And if there's no reason why it can't be, then you can probably go ahead and move forward with postponing. The last thing that you need to really think about is how many people have already signed up, because if you postpone, if you change the dates, so if someone has already signed up, but they signed up with the understanding of the previous dates and now you're changing it to new dates, you must be willing to refund if the new dates don't work. And I've had to do this before. There was a time I pushed something back. I think it was a workshop. I don't remember what it was about now, but I know that I had planned for a workshop and I promoted it, and this is exactly what happened. People signed up, but not as many people as I wanted. I didn't feel as prepared, and I decided, you know what? I think I want to push this back one more week. I think everything about it's going to be better. I think that I will feel more confident. I can promote more, bring more people in. I can feel more prepared. I'm going to do this. And the new dates worked for everyone except one person. And I had to give her a refund because it was not her fault that I decided to postpone it. So this is really important. If you are going to change the date and postpone it all, you have to be willing to give refunds if the new dates don't work. And you can't just say in your head, well, there's no reason why they can't make it work. No, if you've changed, they've already paid, but you changed something, you must be willing to refund. So if you're not willing to refund, then you need to proceed you need to go as planned. You cannot cancel or change the dates unless you are willing to give a full refund to people who did nothing wrong and you decided to change something. So just to recap, if you want to postpone, I think the ingredients to it postponing being the right decision, there we go, would be a handful of people signed up. You know you didn't promote it enough or you didn't promote it in the right way. You're still really excited and you think that you could get more people if you promoted more. There's really no reason that it can't be pushed back, and you're willing to refund if the new date doesn't work for anyone. And then our last option is to just do it anyway. To just roll with what you got, proceed as planned. Now, if 0 people signed up, right, then you don't need to do it anyway. Like, that doesn't really make sense necessarily, unless it's something that you feel like you could use down the line in your business. But, if no one signed up, I would probably just cancel. But doing it anyway is always a viable option and what I do the most often. So some reasons why you would want to just do it anyway. People signed up and you don't want to refund them. But you also don't think that if you had more time to promote, that would bring in more people. You feel like you did a pretty good job, and either the idea you came up with, people didn't want it right now, it was a timing thing, it was a pricing thing, whatever, right? But when you really think about it and you're honest with yourself, you don't think that you could necessarily get more people, or not enough more people to make it worth it. Like, maybe you're thinking, I don't know, I could maybe bring in 1 or 2 more people, but would that be worth pushing it back an entire week or however long you're thinking about pushing it back? So, if people signed up and you don't want to refund them, but you don't think pushing it back, or, you just weren't able to push it back for whatever reason, then you had to do it anyway. There's really not much choice. And this is kind of a risk that you run when you decide to start promoting something like this. If anyone signs up, you're now locked into doing it. And so I think you always, when you're choosing your pricing and when you're choosing your dates, when you decide to start promoting something like this, you need to make sure that you're committed to doing it no matter what happens, or that you're willing to refund if it costs money. So the other reason why you might want to do it anyway, and I actually did this, I just did this last week. And that's kind of what inspired me to even want to do this podcast episode, was that I launched a program about managing your time and your productivity and learning to work with yourself instead of fighting against yourself. And I think what happened, I think it's a few different things. I think, first of all, I was kind of all over the place when I promoted it. Like, I think I did enough promotion in terms of frequency, but I think the way that I explained it wasn't as clear and concise as it should have been. And I think that some people weren't totally sure if it was for them or not. They weren't really clear on like what was going to happen in the program. So many people thought it was a challenge, and it's not a challenge. So like clearly I didn't do very good with the promoting there, because even people that are in it keep calling it a challenge. I'm like, this is not a challenge. So obviously I did not do the best with the promoting. And the other thing I think is that it's a hard area to spend money. When it comes to learning to get stuff done, I think many of us have the mindset of, I just need to do it. Like, I don't need someone to tell me that I need to do the stuff on my list. I know that. I need to just do it. And I think the way I set this program up, if that's how you feel, you would really love this program and see some big shifts, because it's much different than anything I've personally seen when it comes to productivity and learning to get more done. But at the end of the day, what happened is I had some people who signed up, and I was in this situation where it was not as many people as I was hoping for. And I had to decide for myself, what do I want to do? Do I want to cancel? I knew I didn't want to cancel. I knew that I wanted to do this program. And I knew that I was excited about it. And I knew that the people who had signed up were excited about it. And I wanted to do it. I thought about postponing. And postponing, I don't think would have been a bad option necessarily. But I just wasn't feeling like I wanted to promote it. I wanted to get it done. I was ready. I didn't necessarily think, I kind of, when I thought it through, realized I wanted people to go through the program and hear how they talked about it, and I could use that to inform future promotions, but I did not realistically feel like I could promote it better right now. Did I give it 100% my very best all? Probably not. But I did pretty good, and I feel pretty good about it. Like, there are times where I'm like, no, I did really bad promoting that, and I need another week, and I'm okay. And I have postponed things. I don't put that pressure on myself not to do that. But in this particular case, when I asked myself, do I honestly think if I had another week that I could promote it much differently right now? That answer was no. And I thought, I think I'd rather just get it done. Let this first round of people go through this program, see how it goes, and then I'll know more and I'll be able to promote it better next time. And that's the other reason why I think sometimes doing it anyway can be a good choice, is that if you will still be able to use this thing after it's done. So if it's something like a live challenge where people will go through live, and once it's done, and you don't have a way for people to kind of like go through the replay or go through it on their own afterwards, I'd be more inclined to cancel. But something like this program, I set it up in a way so that everything that I created for that program is now done and I can use over and over. And eventually I'm going to learn how to promote it the right way, because it's a really great program. I can tell you that. When people went through it and they were like, wow, I'm like blown away by what's in here. And the shifts that I saw people making was so cool. And so I'm really excited. They're starting to finish it up now. And I can't wait to kind of pick their brains and be able to market it better in the future, because it's a great program. And the program wasn't the problem, but I knew that if I tried to keep promoting, I could have maybe brought in a couple more people, but I was just ready to do it. And like I said, the way that I set it up, I did audio feeds. So it's in a private podcast, or it's also on a little web player if you don't want to put it in a private podcast app. But all of that is now recorded and uploaded and can be used over and over and over again. I wrote out trainings, so it's all audio and written training for each day. I wrote out all those trainings, and I put a lot of effort into feeling really good about how those were written. All that is done and saved now. So I'll be able to run this program in the future. Like, the sales page is done, the graph, everything is done. I will be able to now take this program, armed with some really good testimonies from people who went through it and liked it, talk to them, help kind of get my own clarity about what they felt they got out of the program, so that I can learn to market it in the future. And the next time that I launch this, I hope it goes really well. And I hope it goes on to become a signature program for me that will make a lot of money over the years in the future, because I'm really proud of how it turned out. And it was just, the marketing was kind of lax. So there's a specific example for you of a time when I decided to do it anyway. I had people signed up. I didn't necessarily think that continuing to promote was going to make a difference now. And I knew that if I got it created, I was going to have something created that now becomes a really great asset in my business that I can continue to use over and over. So that's kind of how I look at that. So if no one signed up, there's really no reason or cost associated with canceling, and you're just blah about it, go ahead and cancel. If a few people signed up, you know that you didn't promote it right, you're still excited, and you feel like you could get more people if you had more time to promote, and there's really no reason why it can't be pushed back, and you're also willing to refund if needed, then you should postpone. If people signed up and you don't want to refund them, but you also don't think that continuing to promote is going to bring in many more people, or if you're having a situation like I just described where like, you know what, if I get this done and just create it, I'm going to be able to get more use out of having it done than like kicking the can down the road and postponing and trying to get more people in. Let me just do it and then I'll be able to use it once it's done. If that's the case, then you should do it anyway. So I hope that helps give you some clarity around how to make the decision. And now I just want to give you a few specific ideas of once you've made your decision, how do you proceed? What are your next steps? So let's start with if you decided to cancel. Should you tell people that you canceled? Should you just kind of quietly hope no one ever brings it up again? Like, should you do a big campaign where you talk about how you decided to cancel your program and make it this whole thing? Honestly, I don't think there's one right answer here. I think you need to decide. And I think it will depend on how much you promoted it, how much you think people even were paying attention. And, sometimes you're just taking a guess there with that. And then I think what you really want to look at is how will you feel about it? Will you feel differently either way? For me, my answer is usually I would prefer to talk about it. I think that there could be a handful of circumstances where I would rather not talk about it, and that's fine. But generally speaking, I feel better when I just get it all out there and when I can just be honest. And also with what my business is, I can use it as a teaching moment. So I can come out and say, hey, I tried to do this and it didn't work and I had to cancel, and here's why, and here's what I learned from it, and here's what you can learn from it. So for me personally, I would probably announce that I decided to cancel it. But depending on how much you promoted, depending on if you think people would even notice that it's been canceled or not, and if that would make you feel worse, if having to announce to the world that you canceled something would make you feel like garbage, please don't do that. For me, it feels like a release. It helps me process and move forward from things like that in my business, to talk about it and not feel like I have to stuff it down and fester. Instead, I just tell the world, I say, here's what I learned from it. I use it as a teaching moment and I move on. And for me personally, that helps me a ton. But if you are the opposite and you would feel awful having to announce and tell people that you canceled something because no one signed up, don't do it. If you postpone, what should you do? Okay, this one is a little bit more specific. I think it's important that you do a few things. So the first one is that you announce to the people who already signed up first. Someone who paid for your thing, or even if it's free, but especially if they paid, they should not be hearing about it at the same time as everyone else. The people who have already signed up should be the people who hear that you are postponing before anyone else does. And you don't need to give a huge head start. I would say you could even announce in the morning or the afternoon, and then by that evening you could make a post telling people that you've decided. But you need to give I would say an hour minimum if you're going to send out an email to the people who already signed up or make a post in a Facebook group or whatever. I would say an hour minimum, and even that I personally would give more than that. So if you're able to give 24 hours notice to the people who already signed up, amazing. If that's just not going to work, that's okay. But I would post at noon and then not tell the whole world until 8 p.m. if possible. But make sure the people who already signed up hear about it first. We do not want someone, especially if they paid for something, to find out in the general email or post that goes out to everyone that this thing has been canceled. And they're like, wait, what? What's going on? Make sure that you tell them first, and make sure you've already thought through how you're going to handle if there's anything that needs handled. So, letting them know what the new dates are going to be, letting them know when it's going to be happening instead, letting them know how they can request a refund if the new dates don't work for them. Make sure that you think through all of this stuff. Don't just say, hey guys, I decided to postpone. Sorry about that. That's not helpful. That's not the post that you should be making. And if I were in your thing and you posted that, I would probably request a refund and not work with you again, because that's just not. Now, if you were to make a post that says, hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm having a family emergency and I have to postpone, I will have more details when I can. That's different. Okay. If you're having an emergency, just tell me you're having an emergency. I'm completely understanding. But if you're like, yeah, it didn't sell very well, so I'm not sure, I might cancel. I don't know. And that's what you tell me. That makes me feel really crappy as someone who signed up for your thing. So when you tell them that you've decided to postpone, you want to make sure you have the details ironed out. Hey guys, I'm so sorry to have to do this, but I am going to have to push this back a week, and here's why. and tell them. And you don't owe like nitty-gritty details if it's personal, but telling them, I had a crazy week last week and I don't feel like I promoted this the way that I should. And I want to give myself a chance to bring in more people to do this with us, whatever. But being honest with them about why you're postponing, and then give them the details. So our new start date is next Monday. Here's the date. Here's the time. Everything else will stay the same. Whatever they need to know, but make sure that you're giving them specifics. You're giving them the new dates, the new information, the new link, whatever they might need for how things are changing now. And then you also want to tell them that you can get a refund or make some different accommodations if this new date doesn't work for you. And remember, you have to be willing to give a full refund. If you've changed something after people have paid for it, you must be okay with giving them a full refund. You can give them other options, but if what they want is a refund, you must give them a refund. So just kind of explain to them, here's why I've changed. I really hope that you're okay with this and the new dates work for you. But if they don't, please reach out here or let them know how they tell you, and then you can get them a full refund. Or if there's another option, you could also tell them, or we could convert this to a one-on-one call instead. Or we could, you're allowed to do that. It's not that your only option is refund or nothing. You can give them a few other options where their money kind of would stay with your business, but they would get something different if that's how your business works. It depends what your business is, of course. But like for me, let's say that you tried to sign up for a program of mine and then I had to move the dates and you said, oh, those new dates don't work. But let's say that it happened to be the same price as a month in my membership. I could say, hey, if you want, you could do a month in the membership instead. If not, I'm happy to give you a refund, but I just wanted to throw that out there as an option. And then people will decide. And that way the money can stay. Like I don't have to give a refund if they want the other option. Or I could say, hey, we could do a one-on-one call instead, or some voice message coaching time. Or, I can give people options, but one of your options has to be a full refund. And then, and only then, after you have communicated all of this to the people who already signed up, then you can explain publicly that you decided to push it back and why. And then what you need to do is promote effectively. You can't make this big to-do about, I didn't promote it very well, and so I decided to push it back, and then still not promote it very well. Okay? Like you have to, people are watching what you're doing here, and they will understand that life happens and if you needed to push it back a week. But if you push it back a week and then you still don't follow through, now they're starting to lose respect and trust, and that's where it can become a problem. And you need to make sure you're not doing this all the time. If every single time I tried to launch something, I had to postpone, people would stop signing up for things. I mean, wouldn't you? I would. If you always had to postpone, like that gets really old. So this needs to be very sparing. This is not something that you're doing all the time. If this is something that you find yourself doing all the time, you need to be smarter about picking dates and like change your system for when you plan to launch things, and make sure you have more done ahead of time, or find someone who can help you with a promotional schedule or whatever. You need to take responsibility for that. But I don't think you need to worry too much about this damaging your reputation, as long as you do it with integrity, as long as you postpone, as long as you announce as early as you can to give people enough notice, as long as you were honest about why you're postponing, as long as you make accommodations and are willing to give refunds if necessary, and as long as you follow through and do what you say that you were going to do. So you cannot say, hey, I had all these video ideas. I wanted to go live every day and promote this. And last week was nuts. I was so sick. I couldn't do it. So I'm going to push this back 1 week so that I can give this the proper launch. Now, if you say something like that, you better be doing those live videos the next week. If you still don't do them, now you've damaged my trust. And now I will think twice about joining your thing in the future. So just something to think about, and make sure you think seriously about it. But I really think you're fine, and most people are very understanding, as long as you stay in integrity, as long as you handle this properly, you take responsibility, you do what needs done, and you follow through with what you say you're going to do. Okay, last option. If you decide to do it anyway, what do you do? The first thing, and I need to just tell you this, is you have to give it your best. You cannot, and you need to ask yourself this before you even decide to promote something like this. Will I still be able to give it my all if one person signs up, if 2 people sign up? Because when you launch something like a challenge or a group program or anything like that, You never know how many people are going to sign up. And so if you have in your head, I only want to do this if 10 people sign up, you should not do it. This is not a good choice for your business right now, because who knows if 10 people are going to sign up or not? There's just really no way to know that. So what you can do is offer something as a bonus. If there's a component of it that you would only want to do with enough people, you could say, here's the baseline of what you're signing up for. And if we get 10 people, I'll add this bonus. That could be a way that you could do it. But you can't promote something knowing in the back of your mind that you only want to do it if you have 10 people, because that's not fair. What if you have 9? What if you have 2? What if you have 1? They still signed up and they are there with the same level of commitment as they would be if you had 10, if you would hit your goal. It's not their fault that you didn't hit your goal, and they don't deserve a crappy half-assed program from you because not enough people signed up. That is not their fault. You have to make sure that you are giving your best. These are the people who said yes. And this is where it can get tricky, especially if you're feeling very deflated, if you're feeling very frustrated. You were so excited about this idea, and then it just wah. And you got like 2 people who signed up, and now you're like, oh, I have to do this whole 6-week program for 2 people, and I don't want to, and I'm just going to go through the motions, and I'm just going to get it done. No, okay? Those people deserve your best you. They deserve the full program at your full excitement. They didn't do anything wrong. You approached this wrong, and you probably weren't ready for a group program if that's your mindset. There's so many options. Only work with people one-on-one if that's how you're feeling right now. Do not enter into a group situation if you're not ready to handle a group situation. So I've had times where I'm bummed with how many people signed up for something. Absolutely. But I have to rally, and I have to do what I have to do to get myself excited again. I have to focus on the people who are there, not the people who aren't, not the 10 other people that I was hoping would sign up. The 4 people that did, that's where my energy needs to go. Not what didn't happen and what ifs and why nots. Who's here? They get my energy. They get my excitement. They signed up and they're here, and they deserve that. And honestly, it can be a good thing. This can be your chance to really make this the most amazing round that it will ever be. When you have a small group, you can really connect with people. And so if this is like a group program or a challenge, think about how well you can get to know those 4 people, or however many people, right? But let's just say 4. Think about how well you can get to know those 4 people. You can go above and beyond. You can really connect with them. You can really get to know them and their needs and help them see an amazing result and get some incredible reviews. Honestly, there are times that I wish my programs could be smaller again. And it depends, some of them are, but there are things where I wish I had more time to talk to each individual person. But because there's a lot of people in there, I don't have the availability. And if you can't handle having 4 people in your program, why do you think you can handle 40? It's very different. Like, you have to start small. We all start somewhere. And I understand you may be in a situation where you've had things go well and big numbers in the past, and this time it just didn't for whatever reason, and that's why you're struggling with it, because you're used to having a big group and this time you don't. I get that. I do think that's a little bit different, but I still think that the people who were there deserve your best. And I still think that it's a really great opportunity, and even maybe more so. Like, if you're someone who's used to having 40 people and this time you have 4, you can really get in there with those 4, and it can be a special experience for you, not just them, because you can really connect with them. You'll learn a ton from this program. You'll help them get some of the best results that you've ever helped anyone get. You'll get some of your best reviews, testimonials that you can then use to promote this in the future. Like, there's a lot of benefits to a small, intimate group. But if you're too busy pouting in the corner that you didn't hit your goal, you're going to miss out on all of that. So you have to remember that the people who did show up still deserve it. And you also have to remember that there can be a lot of benefits to having a small, intimate group like that. And then I think you also want to keep posting if this is something you're planning to do again. If this is something that you don't think you'll ever do again, you don't have to worry as much about this. But like my example, where I told you where I got that whole program recorded and I'm planning to run it again probably in a few months, or I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but I know that I'm going to use it again because I really love how it turned out. And I know that so many of you need that program. If I could just figure out how to communicate to you effectively how good it is, I know there's a lot of you that need it. So, I kept posting about it. I kept talking about it. My goal is to I'm still talking about it right now. my goal is to keep planting that seed with you so that when I do launch it again, there will be people who are already interested. So if, let's say that you do a challenge about walking. Let's say that you do a walking challenge every few months. And you just tried to launch it. You just did like a big promotional period and 2 people signed up. And you're like, man, that really sucks. What you don't want to do is like throw a pity party and not talk about it and just say, I'm just going to pretend this didn't happen. I'm so embarrassed. Like, I don't even want to think about it again. I don't ever want to speak about it again. Like, I'm embarrassed and I'm just going to be quiet. What you want to do instead is keep talking about it. And you don't have to say anything misleading. Like, what we don't need to do is pretend that you had 1 million people sign up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying to post like, wow, the 45 people on this call were great. They were all on the other screen though. That's why you don't see them in the screen. Like, we're not pretending that it went better than it did. But you can just be honest and say, I'm having so much fun with the small group that's doing my walking challenge. I feel like I'm really getting to know the members in a way that I normally don't. And then maybe 2 days later, maybe your photo is of you in your walk for the day and the post is about something else, but you say something like, something we decided to do in the walking challenge this time is we're each taking a selfie and sending it. And it's been so fun to see, where people are walking. What you're doing here is just very casually building that trust and that credibility with people because they get to see that you follow your word. They get to see that you are doing the thing that you said that you were going to be doing. But also, you're still promoting, even while it's happening. If this is something that you're planning to do again in the future, you're missing a huge opportunity if you don't talk about it. If you say, well, there's hardly anyone, so I'm not going to talk about it. That's usually not a big selling point for people that sign up for your stuff. It's never like, oh, you're doing a challenge? Well, I might want to. I don't know. Do you have at least 100 people? Oh, well, then I don't want to do. Like, no one asks that. They don't really care how many people are in your challenge. Like, they'll care a little bit depending on what the thing is and if it could impact them in some way. But for the most part, they don't care how many people are in your challenge. Only you care how many people signed up. And so you need to keep talking about it and talk about the reasons why people do sign up. Talk about the community that's being formed. Maybe it's small this time, but it's powerful, and that's going to stick with them after the program. Maybe someone just had a huge breakthrough moment and you're so excited. Maybe with what you did today, 3 different people had the same, like they finally nailed down this thing that they've been struggling with for years. Talk about that kind of stuff while the program is going on, because then the next time that you launch it, you'll have people who saw you talk about it and regretted not signing up, and now they're ready. Okay, so I hope that you found this helpful. Like I said, this is kind of the episode that I wish that I had way back in the day when the first time that I launched something and it didn't go very well. And I was like, what do I do? So you decide if you want to cancel, postpone, or do it anyway. And then if you cancel, you'll kind of decide for yourself what's going to make you feel more free and just kind of be better for your mental health. Will you feel better if you're transparent about it, or will you feel better if you don't have to announce to the world that something didn't go so hot? And there's no right or wrong. If you postpone, you want to make sure that you tell the people who already signed up first. You want to make sure that you explain why. You don't owe like details, but you do want to take ownership of the fact that it's your own fault that you're having to do this, and kind of briefly explain why. And then you want to let them know what to expect, exactly what to expect. New dates, new times, options for if the new dates don't work for them, how to request a refund, etc. And then after everyone who already signed up knows, then you can explain publicly and kind of talk about why you decided to make this decision. And then you need to follow through and make sure that you stick to your new promotional plan. If you decide to do it anyway, you need to quit throwing a pity party, and you need to really give your best to the people who were there, because they deserve it and it's not their fault. And this can actually be a chance to have this be the best round that there ever is, because the small, intimate group has some really special advantages, but you'll miss out on that if you're too busy being frustrated about the numbers. And then if it's something you're planning to do again, make sure that you keep talking about it as it's ongoing, because that's helping you promote for the next round, and so that the next one will be even better. Okay, I don't really have an action step for you because I feel like this is kind of an as-needed topic, but I hope that you found this really helpful. I would love to hear from you if this has helped you, and also if you've ever been in this situation, what did you decide to do? hope this episode inspires you to go take action on something you have been overthinking. As much as I wish you could, you cannot think your way to success, so promise me you're going to go take some action today. Head over to overthinkingentrepreneur.com to find all the cool stuff I've made for you over the years, like my free guide to getting more social media engagement and my Facebook group, Dynamite Entrepreneurs, which has a free course on social media basics.